So here's something to consider when we're thinking about how other people behave towards us and how we can interpret it to see if there's possibly a way for us to have a more compassionate approach. I touched a little bit on this in the video that I did last week where I'm talking about the Compassion book by Tom Bond, which again is a fantastic book for anybody who's interested. And he speaks about how one of the first steps we need to take to be more compassionate towards other people is to understand that every action represents a need. The reason anybody does something is to fulfill a need that they may have. That doesn't mean that we're going to like the need. It doesn't mean that the action taken as a result of that need is always going to be appropriate. As a matter of fact, it can still be harmful, but we understand better the reason why somebody takes a specific action when we look at it in terms of need. An example of that, again, is if somebody steals, it's easy to say they're stealing because their morals are bad or their principles are bad. But what if they're stealing because they don't feel they have an alternative? They're stealing because they're hungry. They're stealing because they're trying to figure out a way to take care of their family because they were laid off. When we flip it in this type of way, it just helps us have an avenue to look at that person and think about maybe how we could help them instead of how we could condemn them. Because when we're not looking at things in terms of needs, when we're not understanding that somebody is doing something because of a lack that they're having in their own lives, even when we take it to the extreme end, somebody cheats on their partner because they feel unloved, they feel a lack of control in their life. Somebody abandons their children. And again, none of these things are justified, but we all know that there's always a cause for everything, whether we like it or not. Somebody leaves their children because they feel that they don't have a place in that home. They feel that their contribution to that home isn't valued. They feel that they have a lack of control. Again, it's funny how a lack of control actually causes people to do so many different things, but that's maybe here nor there. But it does tend to be a constant theme when you look at the actions a lot of people will take, and when you're challenging yourself to look at the why when it comes to the actions people take that aren't, at least at face value, quote unquote, good actions or appear to be harmful actions towards other people. But if you don't look at it this way, then the alternative that you're going to go with is actually judgments. Judgments are the opposite of looking at the needs of another person. Again, instead of saying this person cheated on their test because they just didn't feel that they were intelligent enough to make it on their own, and they have a need to succeed at this school because they feel that if they're unable to succeed at this school, then they're not going to have the financial stability necessary to take care of themselves. If I could look at it that way, again, I could at least understand why somebody would make that choice. And when I understand why somebody would make that choice, I could put myself in a position to think, how can I help this person? How could I, even if I don't like an action that was taken towards me, how can I prevent this from happening moving forward? Or even if I don't like that this action was taken against me, how can I find a way to get a level of understanding that will allow me to drop resentment towards this person? Because all of this hatred that I had towards this person, this anger that I had towards this person, isn't actually affecting reality. This person is going on with their life, and I'm over here suffering and dealing with all of these self-inflicted wounds. So if nothing else, how can I get to a space where I can let that go and move forward with my own life? That's looking at things from the needs-based approach. The other way would be judgments. That person cheated probably because that person's stupid. That person cheated probably because they had a poor upbringing. I bet their parents are stupid. That person cheated because, well, look at their demographic, look at their race, look at their nationality, look at their sexual orientation, right? We start filling in the blanks with all of these things that are just, projections on, again, things that are going on with our own lives. And we're criticizing other people and we're saying that we know a person's character based on certain actions when we don't know what's going on unless we know the needs. So it's nice to actually be able to have these two categories that we could put everything in, because it puts us in a space where whenever we're confronted with something, we're at a fork in the road. We're at a fork in the road where we can choose to understand this person's needs or to make judgments about that person. And you hear these judgments all the time today, right? You hear it in our media, you hear it on all of our news outlets, and come on, YouTube, social media, it is inundated with people just making judgments about another person when they do not know the full picture of the situation, when they have no understanding as to the reason why somebody is taking a specific action. This is why I try not to trust a lot of videos that I see, right? There's always that saying that the videos don't lie, but the videos, they very much do lie, because we don't understand everything that's going into that image. And when we just make this snapshot judgment, it just shows that we haven't taken the time to understand what could be really going on. And there's so many different things there. I could look at a couple in a video and I could see the woman having a kind of grimace on her face or just a very unpleasant look on her face. And I can immediately say, wow, they're an unhappy couple. Look at her with him. Look at the look on her face. They can't stand each other. She could be unhappy for a million different reasons, completely unrelated to him. She could just not be feeling well that day. It could just be as simple as that. She could be dealing with heartache that I have no concept of, because she's trying to be as strong as possible and to keep it to herself. But in the meantime, we're taking the snap judgment of just seeing this image and filling the gaps of what we don't know with a million different things. So, again, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more because I was reflecting on that lesson in the book when they talk about understanding needs. And it's difficult to talk about that without talking about its counterweight. It's understanding needs versus making judgments. And it's an opportunity that we get anytime we're confronted with something that's uncomfortable to us that another person is doing, or a scenario that's uncomfortable to us, or a person that we're unfamiliar with, a person that we should be curious about, but instead we're immediately acting as if we know when we don't know, and we need to fill in those gaps of not knowing by asking questions, wondering about that person in a positive way, and just making positive inquiries. So I hope that adds a little bit more to what I was speaking in the last video. If you've experienced something like this, share a comment below, and I'll talk to you next time.